Waiting for the guy up in the booth. Now we're on. And good evening. Welcome to the 2019 Mayoral debate. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Washington Times-Herald and WAMW. We also welcome those of you who are listening through Memories 107.9, and those of you who are watching on the live stream through Washington High School's radio TV classes, WHSH programming on YouTube. I'm Don Spelman and will serve as tonight's moderator. First of all, we would like to ask you to please mute your cell phones so that we won't have any interruptions during the debate. So thank you. The candidates who are vying to succeed Mayor Joe Wellman are Democrat Dave Rhodes, Republicans Jerry Sidebottom, Diana Colbert Snyder, and Don Williams. Also in the audience this evening, we have City Council candidates. If you are a City Council candidate and are here this evening, would you please stand and we'll recognize you. Thank you. Would also like to recognize the debate committee. Melody Brunson, the publisher of the Washington Times-Herald. Lindsay Owens, the news editor. Todd Lancaster, the sports editor. Angela Allen, who's Washington Times-Herald digital specialist. Dwayne Shake with Memories 107.9, and myself. All the candidates are members of the current city administration, which speaks highly of Mayor Joe Wellman and his ability to attract good people to city government. I've had the pleasure of knowing all of these candidates since they were kids. Yep. And taught most of them. I've seen them in their performance of their duties for the city of Washington over the past 8 years, and I can vouch that all four are conscientious and dedicated public servants. With so much in common, what we will be looking for this evening is what sets each candidate apart from the others. Who do the people of Washington see as the most effective leader for the future? We'll be looking for the details behind the slogans. For tonight's debate, the candidates have been given a list of questions that may be asked. We also have some questions prepared by the Washington High School government classes and others submitted by members of the general public. These the candidates have not seen. Some of the submitted questions are similar in nature and have been combined into one question for the benefit of time. The order that the candidates will receive the questions was determined by a blind draw, which was held before people came in this evening. The order is Don Williams will be the first candidate to receive a question, followed by David Rhodes, then Diana Snyder, and then Jerry Sidebottom. The second question will rotate so that the second, to go 2, 3, 4, 1 for the second question and down the line. Each candidate will have a minute and a half to answer the initial question and 30 seconds to answer any follow-up questions that I may ask. A warning bell will ring when a candidate has 30 seconds remaining in his or her allotted time. The panel will call time when a candidate's time has expired. Thank you again for your attendance this evening. And thanks to Washington Community Schools for allowing us to use the auditorium. Here's tonight's first question. Don Williams will receive the first question. Don is a Republican candidate for mayor. What personal experiences do you bring to this position that sets you apart from the other candidates? Don?
Thanks, Don. My name is Don Williams. I am your Republican candidate for Mayor, I have been lucky enough to be involved with the City of Washington for 46 years. I had a career of 32 years on the Washington Police Department. I served over 20-some years as a captain on second shift and got promoted down to day shift. After retiring out at 32 years on the police department and able to serve the citizens of Washington, I became a police dispatcher for 8 years. After 8 years, I was able to get up, talk to Mayor Wellman, try to find a day shift job because of my children playing heavily in sports, and he transferred me out to the building commissioner's office. I am currently, after being there for 6 years, I am currently your building commissioner and your Davis County Plan Director. Your Davis County Plan Director is similar to the building commissioner in Washington. Anytime you put a building up or take a building down, you come through my office and it has to be done with my approval. Also, I've been elected to the board of Washington Volunteer Fire Department. I'm serving my second term. Also, the first year I served with the city.
Time. The second question goes to David Rhodes. David, what personal experiences do you bring to this position that sets you apart from the other candidates?
I will bring 28 years of city experience with the City of Washington, and I'm currently the fire chief, which I have been the fire chief for 12 years. And I have worked under 3 mayors, 3 clerk treasurers, and 4 administrations during this period of time as fire chief. I have sat through many council meetings over the last 12 years and came up with a lot of knowledge with current politics and the current city administration. I have also went to several past years since I worked for under 3 mayors. I've sit through several mayor roundtable meetings through the state of Indiana, through the southwest part of Indiana mostly. I have worked with all these department heads, some present, some past, in the 12 years, and we've worked closely together. And I know them personally, and I know them on a daily basis along with the city employees.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, I'm sorry. And I want to continue to work with these city employees for the next 4 years and bring Washington forward in the right path as we have been in the past, but move forward and working for Washington. I'm working for a better Washington and with both parties, which I've presently been under both parties' administrations. So together, along with the citizens of Washington, we can make this happen. Thank you.
Time. Thank you, David. Diana, what personal experiences do you bring to this position that sets you apart from the other candidates?
Thank you, Don. I have over 33 years of managerial and administrative experience of a government agency. I also have a bachelor's degree from Indiana University in Public Affairs. I am also a graduate of Leadership Daviess County. I am also the longest serving community corrections director in the state of Indiana. I also won the award of Director of the Year in 2015. Under my leadership, Community Corrections has grown from a 2-person operation when I started in 1985 to now employing 9 full-time and 4 part-time staff. My program has also been awarded several performance bonuses by the state of Indiana, meaning that we're one of the top programs in the state. I also have grant writing experience and have the ability and knowledge to find alternate funding for programs and services. I am currently also a member of the Board of Public Works and Safety. I was appointed by Mayor Wellman back in 2016. That position has given me knowledge of all contracts and bids I oversee all personnel movement and promotions, and also oversee personnel issues for the police and fire department. I do have both developed and managed budgets for community corrections. And I also have the experience of working with city, county, and state officials, and have personally worked with several of the city departments.
Time. Jerry, what personal experiences do you bring to this position that sets you apart from the other candidates?
Thank you, Mr. Spillman. I've been on the city council for the second term. I'm in the District 3, and my knowledge from my previous administration where I worked, I was the foreman for 17 years. I controlled all of the mobile equipment and everything, and on the safety team and everything up at U.S. Gypsum. I retired after 32 years there, and then I came back home. I mean, I lived here the whole time, but what needs to be done is, with my experience, is I ask a lot of questions, and some of them are hard questions, but you have to have the answers for us, because that's the way it is, and that's all I got.
Thank you. A second question, and we'll start with David Rhodes for this one. Each candidate has placed economic development high on their list of things they want to accomplish. Economic development can mean various things depending on who you ask. What is your vision for economic development in Washington? And how is the necessary upfront money best funded? And we'll start with David Rhodes.
My vision for this economic development is the continued improvements of the downtown along with I-69. We talk about I-69 a lot, but we need to continue talking about downtown and putting I-69 right there with it, the importance. Infrastructure is, we've got a lot of it in place, but we need to continue to put more infrastructure in place, working on with the roads, which is part of economic development. I also want to work with different organizations that's already doing some of the economic development. Along with economic development, the director, which the city works very closely with, we need to work with Washington Hometown Initiative Corporation. We also need to look for new resources out there that for economic development possibilities. We have a real good I-69 area already intact, but we just need to see what it takes to get the development in there, and it will grow. Also, our city and county still needs to work together on this project and make Washington better.
Thank you. Diana?
My vision for economic development for Washington is just not about bringing new business to Washington, but it's about improving the economic well-being and quality of life for the citizens of Washington by creating and retaining the jobs that we currently have and supporting or growing our incomes and our tax base. First, we must have clear, honest, open, and consistent communication among local government, residents of Washington, our current businesses, and potential members of the community for successful economic development. Secondly, we must work together with all the officials and stakeholders in Davis County, including the Davis County Economic Development Commission, to ensure this growth. Additionally, we must partner with others in the state, such as Radius Indiana and the Japanese External Trade Organization, which allows us to work with other counties along I-69 and organizations around the state to bring new opportunities to our area. I believe that the current funding for economic development is appropriate as they are doing the work for our entity, allowing us to focus on other areas that are a concern to our citizens.
Thank you. Jerry?
I believe the economic development needs to go a little further than that. We all have to work together as a team, as a city, as a county, and just a perfect example out there on the bypass. There is one business, two businesses out, three businesses out there, and it's been out there for going on 10 or 12 years. So we need to look and see why that we don't have our businesses coming to our area, and part of it's working with the Economic Development Committee and the county and the state with that.
Thank you. Don?
Yes, on what's vital on the economic development is the growth of Washington. It is very correct. I-69 is where a lot of our new development is going to lay. We've got 6 square miles out there of EZ zoning, and EZ stands for employment zoning. We're trying to save that for industrial growth for Washington, and I set in on getting the ordinance set up by John Mullentire. He's our attorney out of Indianapolis, and to be able to get an industry out there, whenever they call you on the telephone, you have to know what to tell them. When they present their site plans to you for an industry, you have to be able to tell them and show them how to present their concept plan to the Plan Commission. I am in charge of the Plan Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Downtown Review Committee.
30 seconds.
Okay. Also, I think you need to improve economic, social well-being of the citizens, encourage new business to build. I think we need to advertise a little bit more for what we do have to offer. And I think we need to try to eliminate some roadblocks for growth. We need to get out there and try to get with these other places like Bryant with the Davis County Economic Development, with Radius, with Jethro, with DC Economic Development, and then Southwest Indiana Development Corporation.
Time. Thank you. This next question is a full question, but it's also a follow-up on basically what you've asked, and this comes from the Washington High School students. Let me paraphrase this and say one of the good things and one of the bad things about Daviess County and Washington is the extremely low unemployment rate. The question is, what will you do to attract businesses and people to Washington? And especially, how will you work to expand the availability of middle-class housing in Washington? Not low-income housing or upper-income housing, but middle-income housing in the community of Washington. And Diana, you have the first question.
I know that with low unemployment, it's difficult to find employees for our current businesses. Currently, I am very much about trying to develop a workforce for our community. I've participated as a group with Leadership Davis County to work with our local businesses and our schools at that time to try to develop a plan of education to work pipeline. That was replaced, but there is currently a bill at the State House to possibly fund that, to assist local communities to create those types of programs with their local schools, to bring those types of jobs to those employers in your community who are looking for those types of employees. Housing is another issue. I know that we have a lot of issues with not having the middle income-based housing available. There are grants available for that. I believe we are one of 6 counties in the state of Indiana who are eligible for the workforce housing grant, and I would very much like to explore that option and be able to bring those types of homes to Washington.
Thank you. Jerry?
A perfect example of that is, I worked at U.S. Gypsum for 32 years. I lived a block away from where a railway used to be. So I could have walked to work and saved a bunch of money and kept the money in Washington. But I had to go elsewhere to get employment. But my vision of getting employment is training. You have to train your people, and you have to train the students coming out of the high school that's not wanting to go to college. Give them some training to show what it's all about. If you don't give them training, they have no idea of what's going to happen. So that's basically all I've got to say on that one.
Don?
Yes, on housing, I think we need to attract and development of affordable housing. I'm also in charge of unsafe buildings for the city of Washington. Whenever we get a building that's unoccupied and sits empty for quite some time, then the city has to make up its mind whether to contact the owner and either fix the building up, or the city gets involved in a condemnation hearing with the owner. And if the owner doesn't fix the building up, we have to tear it down. When we tear these buildings down, they cost anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 of the city's taxpayer money. Just like the one I had today, I talked to some contractor I knew. I gave him the lead on it. He contacted the property owner who was going to think about trying to fix up an apartment building that sat empty for 4 years. And after he found out what it was going to cost him to get his state design release to reopen the building back up, he was able to make a deal with this contractor. The contractor purchased the property, and the contractor is going to spend his money to tear the building down and put up a duplex there for some good housing.
Thank you. David?
On the middle range housing, we need to work, city and the landowners and the landlords need to work together and come together. We do have some problems we need to work through on landlords that my department and the building commissioner's department has been working on this to make better housing for renters. And we also need to develop, we do have developers that has came and showed interest in the city and using some of our downtown buildings as housing, maybe converting over to housing here recently. I have talked to some business people in downtown, and they have interest in developing possibly some of our buildings that's not being used right now downtown and making housing, which would be considered middle range housing for citizens of Washington. We also need to continue working on good jobs. We have good jobs in the city. The city is alone is one of the better places to work for. We have came a long way in the city of Washington with our jobs, but we need to still develop jobs for the young people. We do need to get some of the young people to get their education and come back to Washington and work in our business with the city of Washington.
Okay, and I have a follow-up question, and we'll go on the same order that we answered this question. In the field of economic development's place, the type of community you live in, and city amenities are a large part of what businesses and industries look for when investigating potential sites. Washington is well known throughout the area for its park department, which oversees the parks and the pools. What's your long-term vision for our city parks, the pool, and other city recreational activities? And Diana, we'll start with you again.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Kip and crew because they do an excellent job at our parks. I believe it's one of our most beautiful assets that we have in the city, and they do a lot of hard work. But my vision for our parks would be to continue to work to keep them family-friendly and a place where citizens and visitors to come and enjoy a day of relaxation with their family and friends. In addition, we have new fitness equipment at Longfellow Park, and we're expecting new playground equipment this coming year at South Park. So those are just some of the advantages that we have to our parks. We've also have a new little trail also down at Southview Park. Our Christmas lights at the park are one of the things that bring people to town, that draw a lot of people to Washington. And I'm proud to say that's one of the things I tell people when they ask, what do I like best about your town? I tell them it's our park and our beautiful Christmas display.
That's fine.
I'd also like to see if it is feasible to keep our pool open through Labor Day at least, if the community, and weekends, if at all possible, and a possibility, if there's a feasibility, to expand the pool for a larger swimming area.
Okay, thank you. Jerry?
On the parks, we've done a lot of work on the parks in the last few years. Just like Diane said, that we've got a new walk trail down at Longfellow Park, and it's used every day, several times. A lot of people use it. I would like to see more of our parks have the walk trails and have the sidewalks to get around, get from one side to the other, so they don't have to walk in the road, because we have a lot of people that just like to walk in the road. Just because we build the sidewalk don't mean that they're going to walk on the sidewalk. They just need trained to do so. So that's my vision on the parks. But they do an awesome job, and the light display it's real close to Louisville's, and Louisville's is really, really good too. So the cave down there. So.
Thank you. Don?
Yes, we are getting new playground equipment at South Park. Will be installed next month. I'm also in charge of the curb and sidewalk replacement program for the city of Washington, and I have two guys that work on that crew, and they will be working on this project with Kip Kelly, the park superintendent. Also, we've talked about possibly having a dog park and a walkway at South Park in the future. I think that would be really nice out there. The playground equipment and the walk trail, it's about a 3/4 mile walk trail down at Longfellow Park. I would like to hopefully find the money to go across Wyckoff and continue the sidewalk on down into the sports complex. And the renovation of the tennis courts probably need to be done. Restroom building renovations at Longfellow need to be done. Also, I kind of talked to a couple of people, and I've also talked to Kip a couple of times, that I think at the park, South Park, and at the sports complex, a splash park would be nice for the kids to have something to play in. A tank could be installed, recycle the water so the kids could have some fun out while the other kids are playing baseball and soccer and volleyball and all that good stuff. So also the parking lot, and we have
Time, Don. Thank you. David?
We do have great parks in the city of Washington, and we have upgraded our city park a lot with the Kiwanis building and new playground equipment. And the 4-H building up there is getting ready to do an expansion, and they're doing some parking lots possibly, and that will really help a lot with the city parking lot at the parks to help us out with our parking problems sometimes when we have our big events. We also are now putting new playground equipment at South Park, and a possible new project, as Don said, possibly a dog park they've talked about adding to that facility. Next, at Longfellow, we have put a lot of sidewalks in. We do have exercise equipment. It is very nice. Playground equipment is going to be next on the agenda at Longfellow Park. And we need to continue upgrading these parks and keep making them like they are now. I mean, we've got a very nice park, and we've done a great job with the park personnel. The pool, it's a great service to Washington. I know it's not a moneymaker, but it provides a great service for the citizens of Washington and somewhere for the kids to go in the summertime, and it's a short-lived season. But the pool is a great place and a great building, and we just need to keep maintaining it. Thank you.
Thank you. Here's the fourth question, and Jerry, we'll start with you on this one. Both the city and the county feel that the US 50 project through Washington is a major economic project for the city and the entire county. The next mayor will have to implement and deal with the headaches of the US 50 project. Do you agree with the approach that's being taken with the Business 50 project? And what, if anything, would you tweak? Jerry?
I don't think I'd tweak anything because I'm one of the ones that voted it in. So, I mean, I think it needs to be done. Business 50 is terrible. And if you drive all the way to Shoals, it's terrible. 50 is bad. But down our Business 50, I wouldn't do a thing. I mean, it's going to be updated. We don't have to worry about water breaks in the middle of the road. The water lines are all going to be replaced, and they're going to be bigger water lines for future development out on the east side. So, I mean, I don't think I'd do anything.
Okay, thank you. Don?
Yes, on Business 50, it was a project that Mayor Wellman spearheaded, and he really got a very good deal from the state. They are paying, I think, over 87%. It's going to be a $20 million project, and we're going to try and do it in 3 different sections. We're going to start out by the roundabout and come into town. There's less infrastructure out that way, so that's the way they wanted to start. It's going to be very nice when they get it done. Everything's going to be underground. Everything's going to be new. We're going to have a new sidewalk, curbs, all the water that you see down by Washington Nursing Center and along the highway and other places. They won't have that any longer. That'll be taken care of. We're going to have a bicycle path. The only thing I think I would tweet, they wanted to start the bicycle path out by the roundabout and then bring it in to 3rd Street. I would like to start it at 21st Street and go past all the way down to the west end of town. I think it would be used more that part of town than out towards the roundabout. I don't know anybody want to ride a bicycle way out there for any reason, but I think the kids and stuff would get a lot more use out of it, and people in wheelchairs and stuff would get good use out of it also. But it's really going to be a good project for this city. It's going to be very uncomfortable.
Time. David?
The Highway 50 project we've been working on for a long time. I've known mayors back in the 80s that's been working on this project. Mayor Wellman did a great job getting this done, and it's a project that needed to be done. I would like to look at some areas in this project that I have concerns with because I have not seen any of the numbers. But it is an expensive project, and again, the current administration has went to the county, and the county has generously gave money towards this project, which is going to help the city a lot. I am a little concerned on the length of the contract because we are tying TIF money up for a long period of time, and we don't know what's in our future for the next 25 years. But with the money the county has put towards this program, it is going to help the city maybe shorten the length of that contract, which was a big concern of mine. I would like to have a say-so in this, which the next mayor is going to inherit this, and there will be a knocking on the doors, I'm sure, with people with questions. But since I don't, and since I have worked for this administration, I do acknowledge what they've done and the work they put into this project. And I think it's going to make Washington very well. And during these first 10 years of this project, we will have to prepare a budget for the maintenance of this highway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And once again, for those people who are listening on the radio, we're here with the mayoral debate 2019 in the city of Washington. The candidates are David Rhodes, Democrat, and Republicans Don Williams, Diana Snyder, and Jerry Sidebottom. Here's our fifth question. And again, we'll be back with Don to start. Oh, you didn't answer the question. I'm sorry. Diana?
Thank you, Don. I agree with the approach that the current administration has taken with the Business 50 National Highway Project. Every administration since the completion of the bypass has tried to work with the Indiana Department of Transportation to work out a deal with them to come to some kind of consensus or compromise over the road. We finally have this agreement, and the majority, 87% of the funding will be paid by the state of Indiana. Additionally, we have secured $1 million from the county to be used towards the project. I was personally involved in many of the conversations and meetings that the city had with NDOT concerning the road. I am very familiar with the project, its phases, and its completion timeline. It also only makes sense to replace the infrastructure of the road while we are completing and upgrading the road from the base up. We have seen most of the infrastructure is over 90 years old under the road, so we need to replace it so that we can reduce the flooding and some of the issues that we have along there. There will be 80 businesses and over 100 homes affected by this completion of the road. And I feel that with my ability, what I currently do is my appointment, I'll be able to handle those questions and concerns with our citizens.
Thank you. Now, our fifth question. And again, this comes from some of our youngest voters and the future of our community, the seniors at Washington High School. There are actually two questions here that are sort of combined into one question. From the seniors, they say there are a lot of dilapidated and abandoned houses and business buildings around the community. What will you do to remedy the situation? And a similar question, what is your plan for addressing the poor condition of some of the rental units and other substandard housing? Don, that's your question.
Okay, that kind of goes back to where my office takes care of all the unsafe buildings here in Washington. We normally have to wait until these homes are unoccupied. When they are unoccupied, we contact the owners and tell them what we think they need to do to get them fixed back up to make them a safe building. If they don't comply within the 14 days that we give them, then we start a condemnation hearing on it and send them a certified letter when to appear in front of the mayor, in front of the city attorney, in front of myself and our secretary, and then they have to give us a plan on what they're going to do with that building, and we give them a deadline. If they don't carry that out within that time period, then the city does the legal ad, and we start a demolition on the building. Normally, I try to get a hold of the contractors I know here in town, like I did on this last one. If we can use their money instead of the city's money to tear these properties down, it saves us a lot of money. And then again, they put up a new building. As far as taking care of the landlords that don't take care, we've talked to several of those, and most usually they will fix up or take care of what's wrong with the houses that they have that have electrical or plumbing or heating or water heater.
David?
On our vacant houses, we have had a blight elimination program going on for some years now, and we will continue doing this and using those resources to take down those houses and resell the property like we have so many times. We do have laws we need to take into consideration with the city and for landlords. We do have a landlord problem. We have some good landlords out there, but we do have some landlords that we need some new laws to help enforce this stuff for the city of Washington. Like I said, the vacant housing has been a very good program for us, and we need to continue taking these down. We have sold a lot of good properties, and we've made some really nice houses where these worn down houses were.
Thank you. Diana?
I have spoken with several individuals in town who are property owners, and I have spoke with them, and they have agreed to look at possibly working with me to create a council of landlords in the community where the landlords will come together as a group and make decisions as to what standards they are going to require for the houses that they're going to put up for rent. During my 33 years as community corrections director, I have been in many homes that I would consider are greatly substandard, and I had great concern for the individuals and the children that live there. We must stand up for our citizens who come to town so that no one is displaced again. Work with the fire marshal to make sure that these properties are to the standard that you and I want to live in. We should not expect anything less from our landlords in this community. They should provide adequate housing for our citizens. We should expect nothing less. When it comes to the blight program, we have been working well with economic development over the last few years to continue to get grants for that program, and I hope we can continue that program and work with those individuals who wish to buy that property to build new housing for us.
Thank you. Jerry.
On the blight elimination, and Don knows, I mean, these guys up here know that I'm the one that gripes about the houses that needs tore down. And if we had a fire at a house, I ask Don and I asked the fire chief, I said, when's it gonna get taken care of? And they give me a good response. I mean, we asked the same question last night and they both gave me the response I wanted, which was it was gonna be taken care of. But on the landlord side, right now we tried to get an inspection program going, but with the state, we're not allowed to do that. It's tied up in legislative branch up there, so until they release it, we can't have an inspection team to go in and inspect the houses. And I do agree with Diane, the houses, some of the houses that I've been in, I wouldn't put my dog in. So I think it's a great thing that we do take care of the issues, and we will continue to do that.
Okay, thank you. Our next question comes from the general public. In 2018, utility rates were increased were approved for the stormwater utility, the wastewater utility, electric and water utilities, all to be effective in 2019. The stormwater had not been increased since 2004. Wastewater's last increase was 2014. The electric department's last increase was 2009, and the water utility's last increase was in 2012. What is your opinion of the utility rate studies and rate increases? How often should they be done? And how many utilities would you review in any given year? So, David, I think that's your question to start out with.
Utility rates is a big concern of mine, and on this campaign, it's one of my number one top priorities. We did raise utility rates, and it was quite a considerable jump, and it did get a lot of people upset about that. I think we need to look at this and maybe try to do this more often. I don't like to raise utility rates as long as neither does the current administration, but sometimes it's a necessity. We need to look at this and keep all citizens in mind, how we treat them, and because we have all citizens from all different wage scales and all different ages. So we need to keep that in mind for that older person that is on retirement. $5-6 a month is a big deal for them. So we need to take that in consideration. Keep looking how we can better take care of the citizens of Washington.
Diana?
I believe our current city policy is to have a rate study every 2 years. I know that sometimes they get busy with other things, and sometimes that gets overlooked. And we feel that the rates are current for what we currently need and for the issues that we have. But when you continue to have infrastructure that is as old as we have in Daviess County and issues with stormwater and wastewater, the income to do those projects has to come from somewhere. You have to look at whether or not raising the utility rates will cover the cost of the expenditures that are needed, or is another way that we can look for funding. I have done some research and found out even with the rate increase that we currently have, that was just recently done, we are still the second lowest in electric rates in the area, only second to Jasper's being the lowest. Also, our water rates are lower than both Jasper and Huntingburg. So I feel that we are trying to keep those in check as we move forward. We need to make sure that we continue to keep our citizens and their needs on our minds at all times when we're looking at these rates. But sometimes it's an unnecessary evil that none of us like to do. And we hope that these raises will bring the type of infrastructure that we need to keep Washington growing.
Thank you. Jerry?
As Diane said, we do have on the books for a rate study every 2 years, but this should have been back a long time ago. If we would have raised the rates a little bit each time, it wouldn't have been such of a smash, if you will. So, you know, with it checking on it every 2 years, I think we can keep it considerable that we don't have to raise a whole bunch. But if Washington's going to grow, the utilities have to grow. So that's the main thing. If we want to grow, our utilities have to grow with it.
Thank you. Don?
Yes. On the utilities, rising utility rates are always a large concern. That would be something I would really look at when I come into office. I think there could be some incentive out there to be very efficient with your own electricity at home. We had a program coming through town once before that they would come around to your house and show you different ways to be able to save on utilities and water usage. We have to keep updating our equipment. Whenever you give wages to the people that work for the city to keep up with cost of living, then you keep falling further behind if you're not charging enough on the rates. It's like Jerry said, they waited too long, and it was too much of a political thing, I believe, to look into it and do a study to raise the utilities. I think now they made an amendment in there or note. Every 2 to 3 years, they're going to look at it and have another rate study done. These rate studies are expensive, but they felt like two to 3 years would be long enough that they in case they do need to make a raise, it won't be quite as large. And with a growing population, which we're going to be getting, and we have, it costs more. It's more of a burden on the treatment plant, and we need to.
Time. Okay, thank you. The next question comes from the Washington High School seniors. And you know, as a former teacher, I'm very proud of the quality of the questions these kids submitted. They did a great job. It's probably because both of their teachers are my former students. So, but the kids have done a great job. They show a lot of foresight and thought. So from the senior class, nationally, we have an opioid drug problem, and it's no different in Washington as well as other drugs. What will you do to help solve Washington's drug problems? And Diana, you get the question first.
Well, in my current position, these are the type of individuals I work with on a daily basis. It's very difficult to assist an individual who is not ready to change their mind that they want to be substance-free. Doesn't matter if it's opiates, marijuana, methamphetamine, or any other drug of choice. We have to look at what is going to be best for that individual. I currently work a lot with the Samaritan Center, addressing those issues with our clients, working with them to make sure we provide the right services that our clients need. I have ongoing discussions with them regularly. I even had one today saying that, you know, it's taking too long a time for our individuals to get in for appointments. We need to seriously look at how can we assist our mental health and our substance abuse providers in Washington and how can we bring more of those individuals to Washington to provide those services for the individuals who have substance issues. I know that there are some bills in the state, and Governor Holcomb has put this out as one of his priorities for his next level agenda, and I'd like to see more centers and those types of things available to communities of our size, not necessarily always being in places such as Terre Haute, Evansville, or Indianapolis, where our people will have access to them.
Thank you. Jerry?
On the opioid, and just like Diane said, if they want to change their mind, they're going to do it. But they do need the training, they need the guidance, and that's why we have a facility out here by the airport to take care of that. Or we've got other centers in Vincennes and stuff, but we got to work with the sheriff's department, try to get the guys and ladies trained. If you want to quit, we'll help you, but you got to be able to want to quit before we can help.
Thank you. Don?
Yes, drug problem is something you need to look at and try to get the best answer for it here in Washington. Gary Allison, who's currently the sheriff now, has the same program, I believe, that Jerry Harpstreit implemented over to Sheriff's Department. They have a very good program whenever someone does get incarcerated to try to get them off of drugs. They also try to help the families out that are involved, and also the children. We also, when I was on the police department, whenever we would come across someone that did want help, we did get hold of Good Samaritan Hospital, and also we got a hold of Good Samaritan Mental Health there on State Street. There are several programs out there for them if they do want help. I think we need to get more information out there to the schools. I think the kids that do go to school and their parents are on drugs, they do need some literature on how to cope with it at home, or how to report it to the teachers and get help there with the school nurse, et cetera. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. David?
This drug problem is a national problem. It's just not a Washington, Indiana problem. Our law enforcement, city and county, do a great job with this program. We do have a lot of programs in place throughout the county and the surrounding counties to deal with this problem. As a city, we need to help support those programs and do everything we can with the law enforcement to take care of this and make this problem better.
Okay, thank you. Several questions submitted dealt with infrastructure, specifically Washington's wastewater facility, which has two issues. After an extremely heavy rain, drainage is a problem, with runoff quality not meeting state requirements. And the current treatment facility is processing at near capacity. What specific plans do you have to bring the wastewater output levels into state levels? And what specifically will be done to improve the capacity to accommodate growth in housing and businesses that Washington would like to have? And that question goes to Jerry first.
That's a good question, because I just got through touring the wastewater department today, and that I asked that in the meeting last night. I said, what are you guys talking about? And that's why I wanted to go out there and see exactly what they were talking about. And whenever I seen it, it's not that big of an issue. The permits that they were lacking got changed, so now the permits are mandated, but whenever it was built, it was not mandated. So, like I said, if we're going to grow Washington, we have to grow our infrastructure also, and that's including the wastewater all the way through the utilities. So that's just part of it.
Thank you. Don?
Yeah, Jerry's right. I talked to Charlie Kane. He's in charge of the water department. Also, I talked to Scott out there, Rainey. They had some problems with where they pump off the sewage that goes out to the drying beds. And with all this rain that we've had, there's just no place for it to go. And I think the neighbor kind of turned it in, and the state come and take a look at it. And they've remedied that problem now. I don't think there's going to be any problem on that. But if we do get a hotel, a couple hotels out east of town that uses a lot more water, and they've been looking here lately. We need to also put another sanitation plant out east of town. And we're also, and I know that Davis talked about it, we're probably going to have to put another fire station out there too later on. If we start getting some businesses out there and to be able to take care of them properly and to be able to take care of the sanitation properly, we're going to have to probably get another plant out there if they can find the ground to get it done.
Thank you. David?
On this, this is a water/sewer problem, and it's not really a problem. We're just going to have to upgrade our facilities. We have a sewer facility out there that needs some upgrading, and we're going to have to look at that in the near future. And with the growth out on I-69, if that happens, we will have to put another smaller, more efficient treatment plant out there. And we will have to look at some of the procedures we do and some of the treatments we do on the water and sewers facilities. And we did come up with a combined overflow project here when the previous administration, and it's working up to its capacity. And then with the rain we've had, it has created a problem. Anytime we have the rain we've had this month, it's going to be a problem. But by upgrading our facilities and taking care of permits and our overflow problems, we'll make it through it, and we'll make a better service to the citizens of Washington.
Thank you. Diana?
With growth comes these types of issues. So as we move forward over the next few years, as we grow at I-69 and other areas of town, situations of like this will continue to occur without upgrades to our facilities. We must work closely with IDEM as we move forward and grow. And a lot of times regulations do change. Different people come into the office, into the department, and new guidelines come, and our current facilities don't quite meet up to those standards. And when those things happen, we must have the resources and the financial ability to take care of those and have the ability to correct the problem so that we can continue to grow in the city of Washington. Unfortunately, it's part of the infrastructure problem that we have, and raising utility rates will be one way that we can address this problem so it doesn't happen in the future. And I additionally agree that a lift station, a new septic and sewer addition system would have to be added to the east side of town once the area around I-69 grows.
Okay, thank you. And I have this question from the senior class. It's a question that they asked today. It was a question that they asked 53 years ago. One of the biggest complaints about our community is that there isn't anything for our young people to do. How will you address this complaint? Don?
Right. I hear that quite a bit. Of course, we seem like we have plenty to do. We got our son's in travel baseball. He's in Major League Baseball. Our daughter's in travel volleyball and local volleyball. Kids need to be involved a little bit more in sports. I think that would help them quite a bit. The schools do offer a lot of sports, soccer, volleyball, baseball. They got girl softball. And it's like that splash park I was talking about out at South Park and the sports complex. I think the kids need stuff like that to go to and be able to enjoy themselves while their other brothers and sisters are out there playing sports. And I think that we could get a group together and get some business people downtown that we could try to get some projects going for them where we could have some dances and different things for them on Main Street. I think they're just looking for something good to go to where they can all have a good time and be able to get a DJ and have some music and let the kids have a good time down on Main Street. It's a awfully beautiful place for the city, and it needs to be used a little more often, I think.
Thank you. David?
That is a tough question. We do need to come up with some ways of keeping these young kids entertained. The way they entertain themselves and the way we used to entertain ourselves 50 years ago is totally different. Yeah, so we need to look at this. We need to maybe come up with some programs, maybe work with the school system, and along with the city/county, and maybe come up with some kind of thing in the park. Maybe use we got a nice park, bandstand, maybe has some dances out there, some music out there. Sports is a big thing. Our sports complex is very nice for the smaller ones all the way up. Our skate park at Longfellow is there. We just updated it. You know, all those things, depending on the age of the kids and all the way up to high school, it's a problem we're going to have to work through, and it is a tough question.
Thank you. Diana?
Well, it's 30 years for me, so. I know when my son was in school, of course, he played sports. Luckily, that was something he wanted to do, but when I went to school, I was not involved in sports. I was involved in the band, music, the arts, and the programs here that we had at Washington High School. So yes, we do need to look. We had 2 roller skating rinks when I grew up, so we had plenty of time to have some activities besides taking the cruise through town from one end to the other. So we had things to do, but I know that not everyone's involved in sports. Our library has a great STEM program for our people, and I know that they would like to look at expanding that program. You know, some kids are more interested in science and math than sports, and I absolutely believe that is a good thing for them. Keeps them busy, keeps them off the streets. Additionally, I've talked to a couple of individuals in town who would like to start some arts programs, some acting, drama, some of things like that we can promote. In my Hometown Collaboration Initiative grant, we're also looking at bringing some of those types of programmings to downtown Washington to involve the area around Meredith Park and possibly out at Eastside Park.
Okay, thank you. Jerry?
I think you'll see a big difference whenever we get our bike trails. The kids and the family can ride bikes all as a family, and they can get from one part of town to the other part of town without getting ran over by a car, because some drivers don't care. They have other things on their mind. They want to get there. But yeah, I think it'd be a good thing to have bands out at the Eastside Park. We've got a bandstand. Why don't we use it? You know, there's a lot of things that can be done for the kids. Sure, it costs money, but our kids cost a lot of money to raise too. So that's what I really think that we could do some more in the park for them. Like I said, the bandstand can be utilized if the leaders in town want to put together money to get a band to come in. I'm sure the kids would love that, and I think that's just part of it.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, the mayoral debate for 2019 here in the city of Washington has been sponsored by the Washington Times-Herald and WAMW. We appreciate everybody coming. We appreciate the candidates. The primary election will be May the 7th. Early voting's already going on at the clerk's office. You request a absentee ballot. We have one final question. What do you believe is the #1 issue facing Washington? And what do you believe is Washington's biggest strength? David, you've got the first question.
One of our biggest strengths, we have several, but one of our biggest strengths Washington's got is the way the city and county works together. And I-69 is also a good strength. We've got a good possibility out there, and we just got to figure out how to get the resources out there and get the businesses out there. Some of the other stuff we have, we provide a good service to the city. The city services are top-notch that we give the citizens of Washington. We have very good programs out there, all the way from public service to trash pickup. We provide a good service to Washington. It's one of the biggest strengths. There's not too many cities in the Southwest that will provide a service as good as ours, with our good employees and the good administration we have. We just need to continue working together and making this working for a better place for Washington.
Okay, thank you. Diana?
I think our greatest strength is our people. I think a lot of you know my heart is in Washington, and I believe that this is a great town to live in. And once we decide we want to do something, I think we all pull together well. For example, when the tornado came through in 13 over on the west end of town, I've never seen a more work ethic group of people come together to help those that have been devastated by that tornado that day. People came out of the woodwork to volunteer endless hours to help those people who were displaced find a place to live and retrieve their belongings. I think our greatest issue that we're going to have to address, especially the next 4 years, is going to be the bringing development to I-69 and the completion of Business 50. I see I-69 as our new front door. We have to make that an inviting place where people want to come in and visit. And then the completion of Business 50, I see as our hallway into town, to different areas of town, from the schools to the parks to the Guantley Sports Center. You've got to use 50 to get to about any business in this community that you do. So I believe that will be our biggest issue during the next 4 years.
Thank you. Jerry?
I think the biggest is the people of the Washington, because they all work together. Just like Diane said, when we had the tornado come through, it was chaos, but nobody got hurt, and we got through it. And the employees, just like Dave said, we offer a good service to the community with the trash pickup, tree branches. You know, if you got a tree that's on the line that might be in one of our wires, that we'll take it down for you. So that's one of the biggest assets for our city. But one of the things that we need to do is, and I've been griping to the State House about that, is the lights on 69 need to be updated so you could see our town when you come in at night. And we've also got to remember the bypass. There's another five miles that we could probably use to have businesses come in there too. So it's not only I-69, it's the bypass and the new construction on the New City Road.
Okay, thank you. Don?
Yes, I think one of Washington's biggest strengths is the 160 people that work every day for the city of Washington, our employees. We have 16 different departments, and they all work 100% every day. We got department heads, we have assistant department heads, and all of our employees are trained to the highest, and they all try to do the best job they can for the citizens of Washington. I think that the leaders of Washington laid a good foundation for us. I've worked through 7 mayors. Every one of them has done 100% for this city. I think Joe Wellman, our latest mayor, has done a wonderful job. He did a wonderful job getting Business 50 finally done with the state so we can get started on it. I think that's going to be one of our hardest things to get done. We're going to have to try to accommodate the people that live along the highway and try to make it as easy on them as we can while we get this wonderful highway done. I think the citizens in this community love it like I do. That's why you're all here tonight, to try to see who you want to vote for, who might have one of the better ideas or one of the ideas that you like. And we're all for here to help make the city of Washington better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I'd like to thank all 4 candidates, Don Williams, David Rhodes, Diana Snyder, Jerry Sidebottom. One of them will be our next mayor. I'd also like to thank our current mayor, Joe Wellman, for the tremendous leadership he's given this community for the last 7.5 years. Really appreciate what Joe's done. Once again, I'd like to thank the Washington Times-Herald and WAMW for sponsoring this, the Washington Community Schools for letting us use the auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big hand for our candidates. Remember to vote on May the 7th.